Are you able to, it's setting up your meeting.
It says that it's actually now live streaming, so it looks like we're live.
Okay, well, hello everybody. It's your girl Freda Wilson with you once again, and I have a beautiful guest that you're going to love today. Her name is Sequoia Stanford, and I want to call the love guru. She and I have a lot in common with regard to relationships and mutual fulfillment. She takes a little different approach, but I love it because the two things we share make a great marriage, actually. She has written a book. This is her second book, and it is an Amazon bestseller, and it's called I'm Not Jealous. So, for anyone out there who's dealing with jealousy or who doesn't want to have to deal with jealousy, she is the lady for you. I
Oh,
want to tell you a little bit about her, and then I will let her tell us about herself a little bit. But say hello, Sequoia, to everybody.
hello. Thank you so much for having me on a Facebook Live and sharing my work with your community. I really am touched that we are getting to connect as authors and also relationship coaches and share both of our mutual wisdom.
Absolutely. And thank you for being a guest here. I definitely appreciate it. And I know you have a lot of wisdom to share. So, everyone, let me tell you a little bit about Sequoia. Remember, she's a number one best-selling author. And she says in her book, I'm Not Jealous, it is the ethical, non monogamous guide to free love, relationships without suffering. And she asks a question: are you desperate to love without the fear of betrayal or loss? Are you desperate to love? I like that. Do you want to live the fairy tale of many lovers who all love each other, but it hasn't gone so well because of upset from jealousy? So there's a lot going on here about what you want to get out of a relationship. So, wow, she's going to really help us today. So, she further says, in I'm Not Jealous, you will learn how to prevent jealousy from taking over your mind, how to be at peace when jealousy strikes, how to heal in seconds so you can move on to important things, how to unwind any relationship problem. Yes. How
Mhm.
to communicate with authenticity even when it's hard. You can create trust, respect, and safety with emotions, and so much more. So, Sequoia, you've got a lot in this book. And I'm telling you what, the first thing that stands out for me is how not to be jealous. So,
Oh
talk to
my
me
God.
and our listeners about how not to be jealous.
Oh, well, I think first it's really important, and I love that you and I talked about your books and how you got to writing those books about divorce and now long-lasting relationships and what happened to you. I also had a divorce that was devastating. um, I can't really, my book, I'm Not Jealous, is a book on how to create relationships that last, very similar to yours. And for me, relationships are our ability to create family. I come
Mhm.
from very strong family backgrounds on both sides of my lineage, my mom's family and my dad's family, very strong family values, and always thought that I was going to find, Prince Charming, Mr. Right, and build a family. And then I too would be the matriarch of a family with lots of children. And it didn't work out that way. I have a daughter who she and I really love each other and that's probably the closest relationship of my life. And I'm happy and proud about that. But my marriage with her dad did not work out that way. And some of the things you were describing about your book and how to create a relationship that lasts starts with before you get into the relationship. And I learned a lot by the things that I didn't do going into that relationship that did cause problems. And I call it lifestyle design. You were
Okay.
describing something a little bit different, but checking in and seeing, is this person interested in the same things you are? Well, I was interested in having lots of children. He was not interested in having very many children. He wanted to stay with one. I did not know that going into it. And so when I was having challenges with all of that, and he was not interested in working through those challenges with me, I actually got very, what is the word I'm looking for? Uh, Basically my world got shattered. Like, wait a minute, I thought everybody who got married and had children wanted to have family time and, like, family dinners and stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I was going through a devastating divorce about 10 years ago as well, and I found the solutions to jealousy through my jealousy of other people and their relationships that seemed to be fantastic.
Oh, wow.
So, a lot of the jealousy that I had in relationships, I learned that at the heart of it were the sadness and the wounds that I hadn't dealt with, that my relationship wasn't working, and that I hadn't set up my relationship to be one that succeeded for what I was interested in, my needs. You talk about needs as well.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that created contempt, which is one of the four horsemen of the Gottman work.
Yes.
Contempt in relationship is one, what they found is one of the biggest killers of relationships.
Yeah.
So, I'm Not Jealous is really a book written for women to own their sovereignty and own their right to have relationships that work for them, not just to blindly follow a relationship model that was handed down that we thought was going to actually work for us.
I love it.
I wanted to teach women that you really can design relationships to work for you. And I also, as my daughter is 18, I've been watching her try to navigate this thing called relationships with her generation that are also trying to navigate gender fluidity, gender identity, sexual identity. And I started noticing that, the rise in divorce, which I'm on a mission to reduce divorce by 50% by 2040.
I love
I
that.
want to stop the wounding that we're all doing in the name of monogamy, because it's ridiculous to me. And One of the cruelest things that I feel like my ex-husband ever said to me during the divorce process is that we're not in a relationship anymore. And I was like, are you talking to me? You're talking to me. You're telling me that we're not in a relationship anymore. I'm thinking to myself, we've been married. I am your nieces and nephews' aunt. You are my nieces and nephews' uncle, a brother-in-law to my siblings, and vice versa. And I am the mother of your child, and you're the father of my child. So there's no way we can never not be in a relationship together. We are in a relationship. We just might not be married anymore. That's the kind of relationship we're ending. But that
Right.
doesn't mean going forward, we're not in a relationship. And that's one of the things that I don't really understand when people kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, you're dead to me. The
Mm.
person is never going to be dead to you. And I don't also understand how someone can love someone one day and not love them the next day. We might not love what somebody has done, but
Mhm.
if there was ever love there, the love is still there. It's just being covered over or tarnished by what I call wounds, and the the um, the tragedy of wounds in relationship is that we no longer feel safe with the person. And so, what I write about in my book is the foundation of every relationship has to start with three things. And they sound simple, but they're something that we have to actually work at on our own and also with other people. And that is trust, respect, and safety. those things don't just come automatically, and we should not just give people trust, respect, and safety without really checking in, like you were saying about integrity and and creating workable relationships means that we really have to build a relationship. It just doesn't happen. And I
That's
always
right.
say, yeah, I always say relationships, if they're not growing, and I use a spiral, like a tree is growing. If a tree's not growing, there is no in between growing or not growing. It's either growing or it's dying. The minute a tree
Mm,
is in the direction of dying, that's the downward spiral. Relationships are the same way. If something is not growing, it's dying. And if you think that you're just going to take a break and let something just sit in a stasis position, that is not growing. So it's going to start to decay, just like a muscle. If you don't use a muscle, it atrophies. So
yeah.
relationships are very similar to that. And in that way, jealousy is then dealt with at a deeper level. Jealousy is dealt with in regards to the things that cause jealousy are these wounds that are sitting in our heart and our nervous system that show up as upset, as jealousy. Why am not I not getting my piece? Like why is everybody else have a fantastic husband that asks them if they want him to wash the dishes? Why am I alone? Right? Those jealousy tendencies comes from scarcity conversations and not abundant conversations. So I teach people how to actually stay in the abundance and how to heal the wounds of past relationships. And once you heal
Mm.
the wounds of past relationships, then all of these other things just work themselves out and you are whole and complete. And then you come to a person whole and complete. And then relationships are full and can grow. So that's,
Uh,
I said a
I
lot.
love No, but I love that, and it was necessary because you gave us kind of a background of where you've come from as far as you wanted the ideal marriage that traditionally that whole image had been passed down to you. You thought you would have the same thing and didn't happen. Your husband wanted something completely different. So I get that totally because it's like, oh wow, okay, you're happy and I'm not. That's not sounding good. So, but what I really heard you saying, which if you could elaborate more on, is how do you prevent yourself from being jealous? Like, how do you heal the wounds? Can you speak to that? Because I know a lot of people deal with insecurities for a lot of different reasons from past relationships or different things, the lack of trust or mistrust, maybe infidelity in the relationship. And so you lose the trust and then you become jealous because you're insecure, pretty much because, from my perspective, and if you're coming from a different perspective, let me know, because you fear that you're going to lose the person or they're going to choose another person over you. So tell me about healing the wounds and what angle you come from with the jealousy and how to move past that so people can feel free to love and not have that, in the background of their lives.
Great question. Yeah, thank you so much for pointing to that direction. So healing wounds are activities that we have to do on our own. And so many people don't want to be alone, especially right now with the whole pandemic and being isolated and social distancing. Frankly, I'm going to take a little break and side note and say we're all going to have to relearn how to socialize.
Okay.
That's a very big statement for commentary on what's going on right now, but most of us have not been practicing socialization, and so going back into a social world where we're not in pandemic world, when this whole thing breaks, we're going to have to relearn and practice how to socialize again. though this is the perfect time for all of us to do our own individual self-healing work. And what I
I
teach
love that.
people right now specifically, I'm teaching everyone I'm working with, and when I'm doing Facebook lives and, podcasts, I'm teaching people how to do the core work that will heal you from whatever has happened to you in the past. Now, just like
Right.
I cannot pee for you, nobody can pee for you, nobody can do this work for you.
Yeah,
But
you got to
so
do it yourself.
but so many of us, and I'm also a culprit of this as well. And what I have found in my own healing is that there was a time in my life where I expected someone else to be able to do that for me, to heal my
Mm.
wounds. I wanted a pill. Like, I wanted to go to the doctor and say, can't you like help me with my broken heart? Like, can you help me? Is there a painkiller? Is there like a something like a food I can eat or whatever? Nobody can pee for you. Nobody can go through the eye of that needle for you in regards to healing from that which is making you jealous.
Wow, that is
So
so true.
So when someone comes to me and says, I'm dealing with jealousy, I don't know how to get over it. We go through, and every time the jealous sensation, now the jealousy is an emotion, right?
Hmm.
But that's not where it started. And there's a really great, I don't know about you, like just like the Gottmans, I'm a fan of the Gottmans. I'm also a fan of a neuroscientist who's at Stanford, who's articulating very well the process of how emotions and actions and things like the emotion of jealousy comes up and then what we do about it. He is
Mm.
articulated very well. His name is Dr. Andrew Huberman, and he's a neuroscientist that has the Huberman Lab at Stanford. And he's got a great podcast that he's just starting. Anyway, I'm a total fan. Um, the way he describes the process of understanding like how to deal with your emotion and how you act on it, he
Mm.
describes that the neuroscience behind that is first there's a sensation, then there's a perception of that sensation, then there's an emotion or feeling, but emotion is a better term because it's not just like physical feelings, it's an emotion. Then there's a thought, then there's an action.
Okay.
So there's 5 steps to it. This happens with everything. So there's a sensation, there's a perception, there's an emotion, there's a thought, then there's an action. So most of us want to deal with the action, jealousy actions. Like
Yes.
don't want to blow up my Facebook page talking about all of the things that I'm upset about my ex about, right? So that is where most of
Hmm.
us start. But I teach everybody to go to the beginning of this process and to start getting to be masterful at recognizing the sensations and where those sensations originated from. So let me give you a story.
Wow.
Let me give you a story. So to help kind of see what I've done in my own life. So
Okay.
when I was a kid, I have a big family, and my
Okay.
sister is a year older than me. So my sister and I are really close. We've always done everything together, and we were two peas in a pod, and we went everywhere together. All of our friends were the same, and so on and so forth. So we were hanging out with my cousins, and we did that regularly. And we've got like 29 cousins on my dad's side, and we all are close, and we all used to have family gatherings and see each other regularly. So we were doing one of those family gatherings. We were young, I think maybe 8, maybe younger. It could have been wrong, maybe younger. And
Okay.
all of the girl cousins were going in to hang out at the oldest girl cousin's house in her room. And I was just following along, and I got to the door and they closed it in front of me and said, "You're not allowed." And I'm like, what do you mean
Oh,
I'm not
wow.
allowed? And I'm one of the girl cousins. What do you mean I'm not allowed? I'm not old enough. Well, my sister's only a year older, and then the other cousin is just 6 months older than me. What do you mean I'm not old enough? I'm right. I wasn't allowed. So that wound of my
Hmm.
childhood, they weren't doing anything to leave me with a wound that I would now be dealing with at 50. It was just something that happened in my life that for me, I decided that was wrong. I want what they have. Why can't I be in there? And so I felt left out. In that sensation of feeling left out, it had certain sensations in my body. Those sensations
Mm.
left me with perceptions, and the perceptions I left was something's wrong with me. I'm not lovable. I'm those
Yeah.
perceptions. Those perceptions started like
Yeah.
starting to articulate in my whole nervous system. Then I had an emotion
Yeah.
of jealousy. I'm not getting my piece of the gathering. I am being left alone. There's a whole bunch of emotions that went on. And then I had the thought, what's wrong with me? And then I had the actions, pounding on the door, like, please let me in. Those situations from my childhood then got triggered when I was older and my husband was not willing to have the kind of family activities that I had. So then I had the same sensation. Then I had the perception, oh my God, there's something wrong with me. He doesn't want me. Why am I not wanted? Then I had the emotion, jealousy. Why don't I have the relationship that all of these friends have with their husband? Then I had the thought, and then I had the actions, pounding on the door, wanting the same thing. So what I teach
Okay.
people how to heal jealousy is not to like figure out what's wrong with the person in front of you. I say, okay, we got to go back to when was the first time you had the sensation? And then
Okay.
heal the original wound, because
I love that. Give
the
me.
original wound is actually where the jealousy started, and it has nothing to do with the current situation. The current situation might not be working
Mm.
the way you want it to. That is something we're going to deal with. But the actual start probably goes back. Most people have some kind of wounds from childhood. There's three very distinct um, development of a person's ego and a person's persona and the way they deal with their
Mm-hmm.
life. And it comes around from 3 to around 9, from around 10 to around 16, 17, and then around college age. Those are three developmental moments in a person. Every human being kind of has these moments, and you can go back in time and see this situation of jealousy reminds me of when that thing happened. Oh my God, I'm actually reacting to that thing playing out in this current situation. Then we can have compassion for ourselves. Oh, it's an operating system thing, because there's just this computer here is kind of sometimes complicated, and we don't realize that it's running on default like our
Yeah.
computers.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I teach people what I call is your ROS, which is your relationship operating system. I teach people what your operating system can tell you and how to not let it run on default.
Nice.
Instead, how to design your operating system, and you can rewire your neurology.
Oh,
This
I love
is
that.
sometimes understood as hypnosis, or sometimes understood as what's called neuro linguistic programming. With the work of neuroscience now, we understand that this is a plastic brain, and the nervous system is very plastic.
Mm.
And I have my own experience with that. I've had multiple head injuries and I've healed myself with tantric yoga practices and breathing and meditation. But
Okay.
first, you have to do the work inside here. And you have to
Mm.
understand that it's not the other person. They're just being the person that they are.
Yeah.
As long as you get that they're, John is doing what John is doing because John is doing what John is doing. It's not
Yeah.
anything about you. And the same is true about Sequoia, right? Like I am doing what Sequoia is doing. You either love me or you don't love me. You know, please take what I'm saying as my gift to love the world.
Yes.
But don't think that because I have views about non-monogamy that it means monogamy is bad. It just means that these are Sequoia's views, and
Yes.
you can take something out of it and learn from it. But it doesn't mean that I need to change who I am because it doesn't work for you. I can actually have my life and you can have your life, and that's totally fine. We can love each other and we don't have to
Yeah.
mingle. So did that help you to
Oh,
understand?
absolutely. Absolutely. And I love the fact that you're saying we have to be introspective and we have to get to the root cause of what's causing us to react in a jealous manner. That's so huge because I find myself with some of the same issues going back to childhood with my father leaving my mother. So a sense of abandonment. And then being in relationships where uh, I felt abandoned because of infidelity. And so I felt unloved. Then it just kept feeding into that root of insecurity. So the fact that you work with individuals and help them identify the root cause and then kind of heal themselves so that they can move forward, I think that's absolutely beautiful. Because if you fix yourself, rewire yourself, if you will, like you said, then you can start on a different plane, right? And you see the world differently, you interact with people differently, and so forth. So I absolutely love what you are teaching people that work with you. Now, how can people get in touch with you?
So there are a few different ways, but I have a website called freelovemodel.com. At that website, you can um, sign up for an appointment with me to have a free relationship discovery session. And you can also download my newest book, I'm Not Jealous. My second book, you can go to itshardbook.com and you can get a download of my book there. That book is really about helping couples that are dealing with sexual dysfunction that looks like erectile dysfunction. By the way, women have erectile tissue too, and a lot of women don't know how their body, and a lot of women and men don't actually know how the female body actually works.
I agree.
So, so I'm a Tantra educator and a relationship and intimacy coach. So my work to heal people's sexual dysfunction starts with the self, starts with the self relating to other, because once you clear all that away, then what's left is the deliciousness of human interaction
Yeah,
and the discovery and the curiosity of, oh, your body does what. But
yeah,
so many times we don't actually allow ourselves to go into those vulnerable places because the foundation is not there. Trust, respect, and safety. Trust
yeah,
me, or you, hopefully our conversation is actually building that trust. But I want you to know that once you have a secure container for the most vulnerable, the vulnerable act of sexuality needs to have a very impenetrable container of trust, respect, and safety. And if you can build that with someone, this is one of the reasons why before the 70s, we courted someone because we were testing out the container of that person's respect and safety and trust of the most vulnerable activities that you're going to do with any person.
Yes, yes,
So if we can actually build that and go back to some of these ways of like, don't just jump into things. I've
yeah.
jumped into a lot of relationships because I was like, I can figure out the person, and I know how to like keep my
Most people do
boundaries.
that.
But the
Yeah,
reality is like I now have a practice that I don't make any long term, like big relationship plans without being with someone for a full 12 months,
that's
full
wise.
4 seasons. And it's actually even better to do 2 cycles of that, 24 months, because
Nice.
a person is different in the spring than they are in the winter time. There
Hmm.
are people who have, challenges with the different seasons. Could be hay fever. It could be that they like get depression in the winter. So you want to also understand how this person would be in their lifestyle design from month to month to month for 12, 24 months, and also season to season to season, and also family holidays. Because
That
if
is
you
so
are like, oh, I met this person in January and everything is new, just like January that we're in right now, and everybody's, being on their best behavior because of their New Year's resolutions. And
yeah.
then Halloween comes around, and all of a sudden they're a warlock, and like, and
Right?
Thanksgiving comes around, and they're like, I am never going to another Thanksgiving ever again because Thanksgiving is the most. By the way, Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays because that is like a big family feast.
Yes.
And if my lifestyle design and that importance of that holiday, like nothing gets in the way of it, nothing gets in the way of Christmas. My mom's birthday is on Christmas Day, so Christmas Day is very important.
Oh,
Like if
beautiful.
if I was with someone who those weren't important, that would be a mistake. But if
Mhm.
I met someone in January, got engaged in March, and then didn't know that this was coming up at the end of the year, there's
Mhm.
the 12-month cycle where you're going to like break each other's hearts and create some
Yeah,
wounds that will then need to be healed. So
absolutely.
I always recommend, really knowing yourself. And I love that that's the work that you're doing as well, with, creating relationships that last. There's so much that we all could be doing on the forefront of relationships. And that's why I call relationships by design versus by default.
I love that. You get to choose the type of relationship you want, and that's good for you. Did you say freelovemodel.com? I know that's one of your websites.
Yes.
And your book that we're discussing now is I'm Not Jealous. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to let you know that Sequoia Stanford has a mission to take the pain and suffering out of love and sex.
Thank you.
She is the best-selling author of It's Hard, Sexual Satisfaction Secrets to Beat ED, and I'm Not Jealous. I want to interview you on that sex piece very
Okay. Yes.
soon because that is so important in a relationship that will last. Like you were referring to, I work with individuals, couples to solidify a foundation and build and create a relationship that'll last a lifetime where the love is mutually fulfilling. You have the same mission. I think you go deeper as it pertains to healing wounds of the past and dealing with the jealousy issue. I go into the recurring habits of choosing the same person that's wrong for you.
Mm.
So I love the work both of us are doing to decrease the divorce rate in this country. So I'm excited. Uh, Everyone listening to this taping, if you want to know more about Sequoia's work, go to her website, freelovemodel.com. She has free book for you, and you can sign up to have a talk with her to see if she can help you with what's going on in your life. She did give us a nugget and say she did deal with erectile dysfunction,
Mhm.
in both men and women. So if you're dealing with that, you might want to check her out. If you are in a marriage and you want to fix it, then you can contact me at fredawilson.com. She can help you too. So we both deal with the relationships. My book is Building Relationships That Last. Her book is I'm Not Jealous. What a Wonderful Marriage, and working with people who just want to be happy and loved and fulfilled in life. Sequoia, thank you so much for sharing this time with me. And we trust that people will reach out to you and get the healing that they need.
Yeah.
Again, the freelovemodel.com. That's how you reach Sequoia. And if you would like to reach me, I'm fredawilson.com. Thanks, everybody, and you have a good rest of the day.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're absolutely